Okay. So we have discussed some basics of data engineering in our previous demo. Today we'll be taking a small case study, which we are going to go through it and we'll see how things are working out in the real-time scenario as a data engineer. Okay. So today we'll be going as an overview only. We'll not go into deeper parts. We'll just see how things have been working in a sync with all the different kind of technology tools and technology which are working. Okay. Now today we are taking an example of a banking system. We are taking an example of a banking system. Now, starting with the very first part about the data. Okay. What are the different sources do you think, or what kind of data do you think a bank is going to have? A bank is very common transaction. So, what kind of data do you think a bank is going to have?
Transaction history.
First, the transaction history and how the transaction history or transactions data look like in a form of tables. In a form of tables, right?
Yes, yeah.
Right. So, any kind of table data, whenever we are talking about any kind of table data, let's say it as a data source. Now, any kind of table data is usually been stored in the case of SQL database or RDBMS. Let's say it to be SQL data type, SQL database or relational database, where we have transactions data. Or what else a bank is going to have?
KYC document detail.
Sorry, which did?
KYC doc.
So let's say it to be proper documents.
Yeah, yes, right.
Okay, let's keep it to proper documents, which is going to be a flat files. That is what we call it as a flat file. So any kind of documents, it can be a text file, it can be a PDF file, it can be a Word file. Everything is considered as a flat file. Okay, what else?
Customer
What
data.
else? Sorry,
Customer data.
customer data. Obviously, that's
Ask me.
customer data is also going to the SQL part because customers' data will be stored in here. Or let's say to be if you're storing the images of customers because they are taking signatures, they are taking a photograph of customer, they are also taking thumbprints. Okay, so many things are taking. Let's say to be non-SQL database because non-SQL database can also store data which is having images, text, audios, videos, and so on. So let's keep it to be non-SQL type database. Okay, what else? What else can a bank have? Do we see nowadays, do we see bank advertisements a lot of places on online resources, like on Facebook or on any web page or any shopping app? So we do see banking advertisements, right? We do see banking advertisements on e-platforms like YouTube or also at many other places also, right? Now that is what we consider as a API data, a data which is coming through APIs into the banking system. Now this is what we are considering as a banking system, which is API is coming from external sources, data coming from external sources. These are all the internal sources. This is something as an external source. Okay, anything else can we have? Finally, we can have a logs data. So any kind of bank transaction, day-to-day transaction which are going on, that is what we have as a logs data. Okay, that server transactions which are going on. So everything is getting recorded, and that records is what we call it as logs. Okay, so these are the types of data sources a banking system usually have. Okay, we are not going to depth, but just going as an overview. So these are some common data sources or data types which a bank is gonna have. Okay, now let's see it how these things are working as a big data part or as a data engineer. What would be your responsibility? Now, this is something which has been set up by a DBA person, okay, by a data administrator who is, and these things are something which is getting utilized by the bank on a daily basis. Okay, here regular transactions are going on. Here regular transactions. So these all are having their regular transaction going on parallelly. Okay, so these are something which is day-to-day transaction which is going on. So you cannot interrupt that thing. Okay, that is, as a data engineer, that's also your responsibility that these things will not get interrupted while things are operational, because this is something which has been done on the front end. This is everything is on the front end part. This is the back end part. Okay. Now here comes the big data part of the data engineering part. Now, as a data engineer, what is our role? As a data engineer, what is our role? Our role is to use this data which is getting generated every minute, every hour. You have to utilize this data to come up with some better insights, to provide some better decision making, and to arrange the data so that if any data analyst or scientist is going to approach this data, he do not have to directly query this particular data sources. We have different other sources where he can implement his machine learning models. He can implement a Power BI, Tableau, or any kind of BI tool. So that is what, as a data engineer, you are going to do. Now, what this data engineer will do, he will create, suppose, let's set up a big data or a data lake. Let's set up a Hadoop architecture over here. Now, that is our data lake, or you can call it as a Hadoop. Now, that is a data lake. Now, we discuss that in the case of data lake, we extract data and then we load it into the data lake. But obviously, there will be some medium in between. Now, these are something we call it as a ecosystem of the Hadoop. Now, there we are going to talk about different tools and technologies, such as first is Scoop. Scoop is used to extract data from SQL databases, any kind of SQL database. It can be MySQL, it can be SQL Server, it can be um, PostgreSQL, Oracle, or anything. So everywhere we use a Scoop database. Then we have like flat files. Okay, let's make it to be this also a little bit. Now, to take data from flat files, NoSQL database, APIs, and log. Now, these are something which are completely of different data type. The different storage structure is completely different for each one of them. For each one of them, we have different structure itself. Now, what we are going to do, we'll be using another medium. Now, this is one we have discussed, which is Scoop. Another one is going to be, let's say, we can use Kafka also. Now, Kafka is also part of big data only. Or we can use
Flumes also. Let's say it will be Flumes also.
Now, both of these tools have different advantages. Now, Flume is something like a Postman service, where it is just taking a data. Suppose it is taking data from this NoSQL database and it will throw it in this one. That is all what this Flumes do. And the major benefit of Flume is that it's very lightweight. It does not put pressure onto the database. Okay, that is the advantage of Flumes. But suppose now you know that when you're suppose you click on a website, you click on any advertisement going on from the bank. Okay, you suppose click on any website which has been done by the bank, you enter a phone number, instantly you get a message, right? So what they are doing, they are streaming something, right? They are streaming data over there. Then whatever data has been streamed, they're sending you the message based on maybe personalized message you'll get based on the product, based on the service which you want to get, or something like that. Now, that is something which is they are doing some analytics on the go. On the streaming platform, they are doing the analytics. That is where this Kafka comes into play. Let's write this Kafka over here instead. Let's say Kafka over here. Now, Kafka is like a streaming platform which helps you stream the data and utilize it on the go. That is where the Kafka is being used because it have its own internal storage. So that API advertisement data is going into this one, logs data is also going into this one. Now here it can provide multiple sources. So one is passing it into Hadoop. Another one is you can apply a Apache tool on top of it. Now this Apache tool is something which is helping you, which is helping on the analytics on the streaming thing, applying things on a streaming platform. Okay, that is where this Apache helps you. Now Apache have multiple products, such as Spark Streaming, you can call it. Or instead of Kafka, you can directly use streaming as well. Another example you can think of. So whenever you make credit card transactions, okay, whenever you are making a credit card transaction and instantly you get a call that whether this transaction has been done by you or not. Now, how they are knowing it, that whether it's a fraud transaction or not, how they get to know this thing? Because once you make a call, suppose on the first month, you made a transaction of 90K. Second month, you made a transaction of 2K. Third month, okay, let's say it will be 9K only. Okay. And third month, you made a transaction of 3K. Now, all of a sudden, fourth month, you made a transaction of 90K. Now, this time you will get a call. Why not these other times? Now, one reason can be that it's a bigger transaction. Okay. Let's say it will fifth day, fifth month. You also make another transaction of 85K. Okay, 85K. Now, you might get a call again. Now, again, fifth, sixth time you made a transaction of 4K again. Seventh time, even if you make a transaction of 95K again, you will not get a call. Not get a call. Now, how they know this time to call, this time to call, and this time not to call? Now, that is where they are implementing a machine learning model. And that has been done on the go transactions, which has been done using the Apache streaming on top of a Kafka. Now, this is something which you as a data engineer is going to set up. Now, let's talk about, now this is the streaming data we are talking about. Here we have the underlying data or the storage data. We have to analyze this also. That is also we have multiple tools over here, which is Hive, Sparks, Hive, Sparks, or Impala. Now, Impala is not used nowadays. We'll be focusing on the Sparks part, which is the most commonly used practice to analyze bigger amount of data, which is Sparks is having a lot of advantages. Now, how you are going to use this data? Now, suppose there are a lot of transaction data is getting stored over here. You're storing a lot of transactions data, a lot of credit card transaction data. Okay. Now you're using this to create ML model. Now that has been done using Sparks MLlib. That's a library given by the Sparks to apply the machine learning model. So by using the MLlib library, you'll be using this bigger data set to make a machine learning model. Now that is where you train your model and you pass it into Apache streaming so that once the transaction is been made, Kafka will automatically detect whether this transaction is a fraud transaction or a non-fraud transaction. And instantly, a banker, customer service will get to know that it might be a fraud transaction, call the user. Instantly, by using the machine learning model, applying a machine learning model over here on the Apache streaming, it will denote whether this is a fraud transaction or a non-fraud transaction. If it is yes, it will connect to customer service. Which will tell customer service to make call to this particular user. And that is how the whole architecture has been going on. That's how the whole architecture has been going on in the backend to make you provide a single call itself. And that is, as a data engineer, this thing has been set up by you only. That is the role of data engineer. Analyze these all things which can easily make the flow of machine learning or analysis going on very easily. Also, side by side, all these current ongoing transaction will not get interrupted. So that is something which you as a data engineer is going to balance while going into the company. This is something which you're going to do. Manage this particular section and this particular section also. That is the major responsibility of a data engineer. I hope everyone would got a good understanding of what data engineers do, what data engineer do in real time. Clear,
So,
everyone?
a quick question. So, who will be setting up Scoop, Flung, and Kafka? That is data engineer, or like it is already there?
No, no. You data engineer will be setting up this all things, all these
Mhm.
tools and technology, data lake and everything, because these are set up only for this data lake only. If you're setting up a Hadoop architecture, like instead, if you're making a data warehouse setup, then the system will be different. Then it will be a different technique you will be following up. But if you're going with a data lake, which is another way where you're performing a ELT jobs, ELT, which is extract, load, and transform. So if you're setting up a data lake, in that case, you set up all these things which to pass this data, to extract data from these data sources and load it into the data lake. For that, we have these systems available. And that has also been set up by the data engineer only.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Sorry, come again.
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Any other question?
What is Hive for?
Hive is also a type of data analysis tool, like similar to Sparks. We have Hive, which is SQL based system, where you can write SQL like queries to analyze your data.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question?
So is this only applied to banking domain or it can be applied
No, no,
to
it's
other
just
any
one
other
of the
domain?
example. I said in the start, it's a case study. It's a easy one, like easy to understand, and people are able to relate thing. But this is something which you do in the back end as a data engineer. Like wherever company have a like obviously a company whenever a tech company is getting starting up, they will be storing some kind of data. But to make that data useful, make that data useful for the analysis purpose, that's when the data engineer comes into play to set up as per the requirements. What should we set up, and then how we should set up everything so that it can be everything goes in a flow. No, nothing get interrupted.
Yeah, hi.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, what is the difference between this Oracle DB and this data engineering?
Oracle DBA is like data administrator, which is setting up, setting the structure, internal structure of these data sources. Like Oracle DBA, like as a person, he'll be working on a database. Okay, Oracle database or any database, whatever. As a DBA, I'm just let's take it as a single one. So as a DBA, person will be working into a database that what kind of store procedures we should create, how the data will be stored in the tables inside a database. Okay, how the schemas will be created inside the table, inside the database. So that is what as a DBA, who can access it, who cannot access it, which all data we should commit and store for a permanent use case or for a short temporary one, views, stored procedure functions and everything. That has been done by the DBA person to manage all the data which is coming in into a database.
Okay.
That is as a DBA person do. Okay, any other questions?
So, is there any heavy scripting involved, like Python? You mentioned Python, right? Apart from Python, is any other scripting language heavily used in this data engineering?
SQL is like one of the another major language which we use. SQL and Python is the two languages which we generally use. Along with that, we do use some Linux commands, like the command filing system commands, basic.
Oh,
That is somewhat we use. But majorly, we'll be working with majority of part has been done by the SQL and the Python part.
okay.
So you should be pro in Python and SQL, or any basic Python
I'll
knowledge
not
is
say
fine.
pro because see Python is a very vast language. It have everything available. So Python is like if you have good knowledge about this pandas, NumPy, Matplotlib, that is more than good enough. And similarly, if you talk about SQL, so yes, if you have a good knowledge about SQL, it definitely help you a lot because you're analyzing your data mostly in the SQL part. So SQL is the easy part to go with, and it's an easy language also. But the better you know about SQL, the better it will be for everyone, for you as a data engineer, because most of the time you will be working with SQL part and Python only. So SQL better be good. If you're good with, that's really good. If not, then we'll definitely work on the part because in the course we will be working on SQL and Python both languages. So that wouldn't be an issue.
So is it
Teaching from basic.
specific to Oracle or any specific to any RDBMS, like, or it's just general ANSI SQL?
That would be like more as a hands SQL part. That's not dependent on Oracle DB or Workbench or MySQL or whatever, because we are learning the SQL part. Okay, so that as a like it's not specific to MySQL only or to specific to Oracle. We need to learn about the SQL part only. That's our main motive. That's what we're going to teach in this one because SQL will be used in many other ways. Like we have, if you talk about Spark, because that's the major one. Spark has PySparks for Python. So you will be using Python in this particular case, PySpark. Similarly, Sparks have Spark SQL. Spark have its own SQL also. That's what we're going to learn. Python PySpark is a library which helps you work with the Python part using Sparks. Similarly, Spark SQL is what we call this. So that is how you'll be using the SQL and Python, majority of it.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions?
Sahil, I have one doubt. So, if someone who's planning to transit from Oracle DBA to a data engineer, what are the initial steps that he can follow?
So you can start working on some basic Python part. Like if you're just because you know about SQL already, that is an advantage for you. But then you start working on the Python part, start improving those skills of Python. Because then after that, when you start moving into these tools and technologies, because data engineer is more about the tools and technologies. Okay, not about the coding part, I'll say. Coding is, yes, it's also a part, but it's more about the tools and technology part. So after having a good knowledge of Python and SQL, definitely you can start working on these tools and technologies, start exploring these tools and technologies. It will be like a good way to start with.
Okay, thanks, sir.
To enter into the IT industry, does data engineer require any kind of basic experience, or he can start as a fresher as well?
Yes, you can definitely start as a fresher. Obviously,
For
if you
for
have
DBA,
experience, so that's an added thing. But if you are starting as a fresher, that's also fine, no issue.
just for DBA, some kind of experience, every company will ask like at least for 2 3 years of experience.
So
For
DBA is
data
like
engineer,
you're entering in the administration part. If you go into the DBA now, DBA is a senior post. It's not a junior post. Okay, you start as a .NET developer or some kind of developer only, where you practice a SQL on a very good scale, and as you progress, you then go into the DBA part because it's an administration team. It's administration team for the complete data source. So that's a good post. But when you talk about data engineer, obviously you'll not start as a completely data engineer. They'll start giving you some tools to manage the data first. Okay, you'll be working with some writing some basic command to clean up the data or to transform the data. That's where you'll be starting as a data engineer when you enter into the data engineering field. That's where you'll start working as. You'll start working on these ELT or ETL pipelines to make them more efficient, to see how things have been working out, how you explore the data, how you get the data and use it in another technologies and tools. That's where you'll be morely starting with. Or else the other part can be the PICE part. That is where many people starts also as a data engineer after joining as data engineer. Because these ETL or the setup part, obviously you'll not enter the setup part directly. That setup part is always be done by experienced person. You as a like after that experienced person or your manager might have set up for that company requirement, then you might start working on the PySpark, SQL, or these kind of things to analyze the data for that company in the data engineer also. That's how you'll be starting.
apart from Hadoop, is there anything that is being used in the industry?
Data warehouses, we have multiple data warehouses from multiple cloud storages. Data warehouse is another technology such as into the big data tech. And Hadoop also we have HBase as well, which is all HBase. So these are the major ones which we generally use in the industries. Okay, another question if anyone have? Okay, so that is as a data engineer, and if that is all we are going to discuss for today. And if you have any feedbacks, please let me know what else we can do better to go with. That is
Hello.
all we have for today. Yes, Rohit.
Um, so, as you have said that you cannot or it's difficult to switch directly in as a data engineer. So, what fields or projects can we do before that? As
When did I say like it's difficult to enter the data engineer?
before sometimes you says
Obviously, you can enter anywhere. Like every domain
you said
have its own
that
starting point. Uh, Obviously, if you're entering as a fresh into data engineer, you'll be starting on like easier tech first because they don't want more bigger things to be rely on you as you don't have that kind of experience. But as you start progressing with the things, you can definitely move upper in this data engineering domain also.
okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
So hello everyone. We have only 2 seats are available for the admission. So those who are interested to join, they can reach out to Learnomate team. Yes, thank you.
When is the course started?
Yeah, please message on my number 77570629. We'll connect. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's shared in chat option. So we have only 2 seats are available. Please connect with these numbers. Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Is anyone having any doubts? They can ask related to training. Okay, thank you, everyone.